Prilla's skin was already glowing pale blue, and the briefing had not even started yet. She sat in the third row of the Academy lecture hall, her bioluminescent patches flickering with the stress she could not hide. Beside her, Gort's four massive hands gripped the edges of his desk so hard that the metal was bending. Civi had gone completely still, her translucent body frozen like glass. Danny Reyes watched his three squad mates with quiet concern. He had been at the Galactic Defense Academy for 8 months now, and he had learned to read alien body language pretty well. Right now, all three of them looked terrified, and Commander Reth had not even said the words yet. Your final survival examination, the commander announced, will take place during the long night. The room erupted. Cadets from a dozen different species began shouting, protesting, some even standing up to leave. Danny stayed in his seat, confused by the reaction. He leaned toward Prilla. "What's the long night?" he whispered. Prilla turned to him, her glow now bright enough to read by. Veldris, 7 rotates slowly. Night here lasts 72 standard hours. Complete darkness. No moons. No stars visible through the forest canopy. She paused, and the shadow maws hunt during every moment of it. Danny nodded slowly. "Okay, what's a shadow maw?" "Apex predator," Gort rumbled, his deep voice shaking. 6 legs, no eyes, hunts by sound and heat. 12 cadets died in last year's examination. They canceled the exercise after that, Civi whispered, her first words in 10 minutes. They promised they would never run it again. Commander Reth raised his hand for silence. The room slowly quieted, though the fear remained thick in the air. "The examination will proceed," he said firmly. "You will traverse 40 kilometers of forest terrain in squads of 4. You will reach extraction point Delta 9 before dawn of the 3rd day. You will carry standard survival gear only. No weapons capable of killing a shadow maw. No emergency beacons except for genuine life-threatening injury." "This is murder," someone shouted from the back. "This is training," Commander Reth replied coldly. "The enemies of the Coalition will not wait for daylight to attack. You must learn to function when conditions are not ideal." Danny raised his hand. The commander looked surprised, but nodded at him. "Sir, can you tell us more about the shadow maws? Hunting patterns, territorial behavior, that kind of thing?" The room went silent. Every alien in the hall turned to stare at the human. Prilla's glow flickered with confusion. "Why do you want to know?" Commander Reth asked. "Just want to understand what we're working with," Danny said simply. He pulled out a small notebook and a pen. "Better to know than to guess." The commander studied him for a long moment, then smiled slightly. "Shadow maws are pack hunters. They communicate through subsonic vibrations. They prefer to ambush prey that is isolated or panicked. They avoid large groups that move with confidence." He paused. "They have never successfully attacked a group that remained calm and organized." Danny wrote this down carefully. Around him, the other cadets watched with something between confusion and hope. After the briefing ended, Danny's squad gathered outside. Prilla was still glowing. Gort was pacing in circles. Civi had not moved from her frozen position. "We're going to die," Gort said flatly. "My species has 2 suns. We have never experienced true darkness. I cannot see anything without light. Nothing. My people live on the day side of a locked world," Prilla added, her voice trembling. "Darkness is like death to us. My body reacts before my mind can stop it. I will become paralyzed," Civi whispered. "Complete darkness triggers a fear response in my species that shuts down voluntary movement. I will be useless. Worse than useless. I will be a burden you must carry." Danny listened to all of this quietly. Then he sat down on a nearby bench and looked up at his squad mates. "My grandmother raised me in Montana," he said. "That's a rural area on Earth. Lots of forests, lots of mountains, very few people. She used to take me camping when I was a kid. We would spend weeks in the wilderness with nothing but basic gear." "What does this have to do with anything?" Gort asked impatiently. "She taught me to navigate at night," Danny continued. "Not with technology. With my senses. Humans spent 100,000 years living alongside darkness. We learned its patterns. We learned to use it instead of fighting it." He stood up. "I know you're all scared. That's okay. But I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. If you trust me, I can get us through this. Prilla stared at him. You are not afraid of the dark? Danny considered the question carefully. I respect it, he said finally. But no, I'm not afraid of it. The dark and I are old friends. 6 hours later, the squad stood at their starting coordinates. The last sun was sinking below the horizon, painting the sky in deep orange and purple. The forest around them grew darker with every passing minute. Prilla's glow was almost blinding now. Gort's breathing was rapid and shallow. Sivy had already stopped moving. Danny checked his pack one final time, then turned to face the coming night. Stay close, he said calmly. Listen to my voice. And remember, the darkness is not our enemy. It's just a place we haven't learned to see yet. The sun disappeared. The long night began. The darkness came like a heavy blanket dropping over the world. Gort made a sound that Danny had never heard before. It was somewhere between a moan and a scream, deep and primal and full of ancient terror. His four arms reached out blindly, grabbing at nothing, finding nothing. I cannot see, he gasped. I cannot see anything. There is nothing. Nothing. Prilla's bioluminescence exploded into full brightness. Her entire body became a beacon of blue-white light, visible for hundreds of meters in every direction. She cannot control it. Her species had evolved this response as a warning signal, a way to alert others of danger. But here, in this forest full of predators, it was the worst possible thing she could do. Prilla, you need to dim down, Danny said calmly. You're drawing attention. I cannot, she cried. I cannot control it. When I'm afraid, it happens automatically. Sivy had not said a word. Danny turned to check on her and found her standing completely frozen, her translucent body rigid like a statue. Her eyes were open but empty. The paralysis had already begun. Danny took a deep breath. This was worse than he had expected, but not worse than he could handle. His grandmother's voice echoed in his memory from 20 years ago. When everyone else panics, Danny, that's when you become the comm center. Fear spreads like fire, but so does peace. You choose which one you carry. Okay, Danny said quietly. Everyone stop. Just stop for a moment. He knelt down and opened his pack. His hands moved with practiced ease, finding what he needed by touch alone. Strips of cloth, a small container of tree resin he had collected earlier, dry moss from his emergency kit. What are you doing? Gort demanded. We need to move. We need to find light. We need to breathe first, Danny replied. He wrapped the moss around the end of a thick branch, coated it with resin, and struck a spark with his flint. The torch caught fire and burned with a warm, steady glow. The effect on his squad mates was immediate. Gort's breathing slowed. Prilla's glow dimmed slightly as her panic decreased. Even Sivy seemed to relax, though she still could not move. Better? Danny asked. How did you do that? Prilla whispered. How did you make fire so quickly in the dark? Practice, Danny said simply. My grandmother made me do this 1,000 times. Eyes closed, hands only, rain or shine. He lit a second torch and handed it to Gort. Hold this. The light will help you see a few meters ahead. That's all you need. Gort took the torch with trembling hands. This is primitive technology. The Academy gave us advanced equipment. The Academy gave us equipment that needs power cells and clear skies to recharge, Danny replied. Fire only needs fuel and air. My grandmother always said that the old ways survive because they work. He moved to Sivy next. She was still frozen, her eyes staring at nothing. Danny crouched in front of her and spoke softly. Sivy, can you hear me? No response. Your body has shut down to protect you. That's okay. It's a survival response. But I need you to focus on my voice now. Just my voice. Nothing else matters. He kept talking, his tone steady and warm. He described the forest around them, the sound of wind in the leaves, the smell of moss and earth. He told her about the camping trips with his grandmother, the nights they spent under the stars, the story she told him about their ancestors who hunted mammoths in the Ice Age darkness. Slowly, very slowly, Sivy's eyes began to focus. Her rigid posture softened. A small breath escaped her lips. There you are, Danny said gently. Welcome back. The darkness, she whispered. It is so complete. It feels that way, Danny agreed. But it's not empty. Listen. They all went quiet. In the silence, the forest came alive with sound. Wind rustling through branches. Small creatures moving through undergrowth. Water dripping somewhere in the distance. And far away, very far away, the low rumble of a shadow maw call. That one is about 3 kilometers north, Danny said. Moving away from us. We're safe for now. How can you possibly know that? Gord asked. Sound travels differently through forest. My grandmother taught me to read echoes, the way they bounce off trees and hills. Danny stood and picked up his own torch. We need to start moving. 40 kilometers is a long way, and we have 70 hours to cover it. I want to make good progress while everyone is still fresh. He organized them into a line. Danny in front with a torch. Prilla behind him, her glow now manageable. Civvy in the middle where she could be supported. Gord at the rear with the second torch. Move slowly, Danny instructed. Watch where I step and step there too. Don't rush. The darkness isn't going anywhere, and neither are we. They began walking. The forest pressed in around them, vast and black beyond the small circles of their torchlight. But they moved forward one step at a time. Danny, Prilla said quietly after a while. How are humans not afraid of this? Danny considered the question. We are afraid, he admitted. But we've had a long time to learn how to walk alongside our fear. On Earth, the night was dangerous. But it was also beautiful. My grandmother used to say that humans who only knew the day were only half alive. He pushed aside a branch and held it for the others to pass. Tonight, I'll teach you what she taught me. And by the time the sun rises, you'll understand what she meant. 6 hours into the long night, Danny called for a rest stop near a fallen tree. They had covered 8 kilometers. Not fast, but steady. The torches had burned down twice, and Danny had rebuilt them each time with materials gathered along the way. His squad mates watched him work with growing amazement. You do this without looking, Prilla observed. Your hands know what to do. Danny smiled in the flickering light. Muscle memory. When I was 10, my grandmother blindfolded me for an entire weekend. Made me do everything by touch. Cooking, cleaning, walking, making fire. He finished wrapping the new torch and lit it. I complained the whole time. Thought she was being cruel. Didn't understand until years later what she was really teaching me. What was she teaching you? Civvy asked. Her paralysis had not returned, but she stayed close to Danny, drawing courage from his presence. That my eyes were making me lazy, Danny replied. Humans have other senses. Hearing, smell, touch, even taste. But we rely on sight so much that we forget the others exist. My grandmother wanted me to remember. Gort shifted his massive body, his 4 arms wrapped around himself for comfort. My species has excellent vision, for eyes that can see in every direction. But in this darkness, they are useless. I have never felt so helpless. Danny nodded sympathetically. That's exactly how I felt when I was blindfolded. But here's the thing, Gort. You have 4 arms, 8 fingers on each hand. That's 32 points of contact with the world. Your hands can feel things my hands can't even imagine. What do you mean? Danny moved closer to the big alien. Put your lower hands flat on the ground. Spread your fingers wide. Close your eyes and focus only on what you feel. Gort hesitated, then did as Danny asked. His huge palms pressed against the forest floor, fingers splayed out across the moss and soil. Now breathe slowly, Danny continued. Feel the vibrations. The forest is alive. Everything that moves creates ripples, like stones dropped in water. For a long moment, Gort was silent. Then his eyes snapped open. Something is walking, he said with surprise. To the east. For legs, maybe 5. Heavy. Danny grinned. That's probably a grazer. They come out at night to feed when the shadow maws are hunting elsewhere. Harmless. He patted Gort's shoulder. See? Your body knows how to navigate the dark. You just never had to learn. He turned to Civvy next. The translucent alien was watching with fascination. Your turn, Danny said. You mentioned that your species can see in dim light, but not complete darkness. What about sound? How well do you hear? Very well, Civvy admitted. Our homeworld has constant auroral light, but it is quiet. We developed sensitive hearing to detect predators approaching from behind. Perfect. I want you to close your eyes and map the space around us using only sound. Tell me what you hear. Civi closed her eyes. Her head tilted slightly as she focused. Wind from the northwest, she said slowly. Water running somewhere to our south, perhaps a stream. The trees here are tall. The canopy is thick. There's an open space ahead, maybe a clearing. She paused. And movement. Small things. Insects or rodents. Excellent, Danny said warmly. You just described our surroundings better than I could see them with a torch. You're not blind in the dark, Civi. You just see with different eyes. Prilla had been listening quietly. Her bioluminescence had stabilized, glowing at a soft, steady level instead of the panicked brightness from before. What about me? She asked. My light only gives me away. It serves no purpose here. Danny sat down beside her. Your grandmother taught me that every trait exists for a reason, he said. Your species evolved to glow when frightened because it warned others of danger. It was a gift, not a curse. The problem isn't your light. The problem is fear controlling when it appears. I cannot stop the fear. You don't have to stop it. You have to redirect it. Danny reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, smooth stone. My grandmother gave me this when I was 7. She told me that whenever I felt afraid, I should hold the stone and breathe slowly. The fear wouldn't disappear, but it would become manageable. He placed the stone in Prilla's hand. Focus on how it feels. The weight, the temperature, the texture. When you focus on something physical, your mind has less room for panic. Try it now. Prilla closed her fingers around the stone. She breathed deeply, once, twice, 3 times. Slowly, her glow began to fade. Not completely, but enough. It's working, she whispered. Keep practicing, Danny said. By tomorrow, you'll be able to control it completely. He stood and gathered his pack. The rest stop was over. They had 32 kilometers left and 66 hours to cover them. My grandmother used to say that darkness doesn't take anything away, Danny told them as they prepared to move. It just asked you to find what was always there. Your hands, Gort. Your ears, Civi. Your breath, Prilla. You already had everything you needed. The dark just helped you discover it. A shadow maw called in the distance, closer than before. Danny listened carefully, measuring the echo. 2 kilometers south, he reported. Hunting something else. Not us. They resumed walking, for figures moving through the endless night. But something had changed. They walked a little taller now. Their fear had not disappeared, but it had been joined by something else, hope. 20 hours into the long night, they found the abandoned camp. Danny smelled it first. Burned plastic and something chemical. He raised his hand to stop the group, then moved forward alone with his torch held low. The scene was chaos. Emergency flares had been scattered everywhere, their bright chemical glow now faded to weak embers. Equipment was thrown across the ground. A tent had been torn apart, and everywhere, footprints going in every direction, the marks of panic. Another squad, Gort said grimly as the others joined Danny. They did not make it. They might have, Danny replied, crouching to examine the tracks. I don't see blood. I think they ran. Ran where? Prilla asked. There is nowhere to run in this darkness. Danny stood and followed the footprint trail with his eyes. They went northeast. Fust probably heard a shadow maw and panicked. He shook his head sadly. They made every mistake. What do you mean? Danny picked up one of the spent emergency flares. They used all their light at once. Every flare, every torch, everything they had. Probably thought more light meant more safety. He dropped the flare back to the ground. But constant bright light in darkness is the worst thing you can do. It blinds you to everything beyond its edge. Anything could be standing 5 meters away and you would never see it. So what should they have done? Civi asked. Used light sparingly. Let their eyes adjust to the dark. Moved with confidence instead of running. Danny looked at his squad mates. My grandmother took me hunting at night when I was 15. Real hunting for food, not sport. She made me sit in complete darkness for an hour before we started. No torch, no fire, nothing. That sounds terrifying, Prilla said. It was. But after that hour, I could see things I never knew existed. Shapes in the shadows, movement in the trees. My eyes had adapted, and suddenly the darkness wasn't dark anymore. Danny paused. Humans who fear the night create more of it. They surround themselves with light until they can't see anything else. But humans who accept the night, who let it in, discover that they've always had the ability to see within it. A shadow maw call echoed through the forest, closer than any they had heard before. Gort's four hands immediately reached for his torch. Don't, Danny said quickly. Listen. Another call answered the first, then another. The sounds came from multiple directions, surrounding them. They're hunting the other squad, Danny said quietly. The flare trail led them here, and now they're tracking the scent northeast. He made a decision. We need to go completely dark. What? Prilla's glow surged bright with fear. No, we cannot. We have to. The shadow maws are between us and our destination. If we try to go around them, we lose hours we don't have. But if we go straight through while they're focused on hunting the other squad, we can pass without being noticed. In total darkness. Gord asked. How? By trusting me, Danny said, and by trusting yourselves. You've learned more in the last 20 hours than you realize. Now it's time to use it. He extinguished his torch. The darkness rushed in like a wave. Prilla's light flared, but she immediately grabbed the stone Danny had given her. She focused on its weight, its coolness, the smooth surface against her palm. Slowly, breath by breath, her glow faded to almost nothing. Good, Danny whispered. Now hold hands. Gort, you're in back. Keep your lower hands on the ground. Feel for vibrations. Tell me if anything gets close. I understand. Civi, you're in the middle. Listen to everything. Navigate for us. Tell me where the sounds are coming from. I will try. Prilla, you're right behind me. Hold on to my pack. Don't let go. Danny took the lead, moving slowly through the absolute blackness. He could not see anything, not even his own hand in front of his face. But his feet knew the forest floor. His ears heard the rustle of leaves, the whisper of wind, the distant sounds of shadow maws moving through the trees. Something on our right, Civi breathed, moving parallel to us. Maybe 30 meters. I feel vibrations, Gord added. Multiple creatures. Heavy. They are circling. Keep moving, Danny said calmly. Slow and steady. They're not hunting us. They're setting up an ambush for something else. They walked through the dark for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. The shadow maw calls grew louder, then faded. The vibrations Gort felt moved away. The sounds Civi tracked disappeared into the distance. And then they were through. Danny waited another 5 minutes to be safe, then lit a new torch. The warm light revealed 3 alien faces staring at him with expressions of pure amazement. We made it, Prilla whispered. We walked through a pack of apex predators in complete darkness, and we made it. You made it, Danny corrected. I just walked in front. Gort, you detected them before I did. Civi, you navigated better than any map. Prilla, you controlled your light when it mattered most. You did this yourselves. Gort looked down at his 4 hands as if seeing them for the first time. I felt them. I actually felt them in the ground. And it will only get easier, Danny promised. The more you practice, the more the darkness becomes just another place to live. He smiled and started walking again. We're halfway there. 20 kilometers to go. 40 hours into the long night. The ground disappeared beneath Gort's feet. One moment he was walking. The next moment he was falling, his massive body crashing through branches and undergrowth, his 4 arms grabbing desperately at nothing. He hit the bottom of the ravine with a sickening thud. Gort, Prilla screamed. Her light blazed bright, but Danny was already moving. He dropped to his knees at the edge of the ravine, holding his torch out over the darkness below. The drop was maybe 8 meters. Not enough to kill a Massian, but more than enough to cause serious injury. Gort, can you hear me? A groan came from below. I am alive, but something is wrong with my upper right arm. It will not move. Danny's mind raced through possibilities. They could not leave Gort behind. They could not call for emergency extraction without failing the examination. They had to get him out. He turned to find Civi frozen again, her paralysis triggered by the sudden crisis. Prilla was trembling, her light flickering wildly. "I need both of you," Danny said firmly. "Prilla, control your light. Use the stone. Civi, I need you to focus on my voice. We have work to do." "I cannot," Civi whispered, her body rigid. "I cannot move." "Yes, you can." Danny moved to her side, speaking calmly but with authority. "This is no different from the darkness. It feels overwhelming, but you have the skills to handle it. Focus on what you can hear. Tell me about the ravine." Civi's eyes flickered. Her hearing, her one reliable sense in the dark, was something she could trust. "The walls are steep, but not vertical," she said slowly, her paralysis loosening as her mind engaged. "There's water at the bottom, a small stream. The echo suggests the ravine is narrow, perhaps 3 meters wide. Good. What else?" "Vegetation on the walls. Vines, thick ones. They could support weight." "Excellent." Danny turned to Prilla. "I need your help gathering materials. We're going to build a rope." For the next 30 minutes, they worked together. Danny directed, explaining the techniques his grandmother had taught him for emergency situations. Prilla used her now steady light to find suitable vines and branches. Civi listened for any approaching predators, her confidence growing with every passing minute. They wove the vines into a crude but strong rope. Danny tested it by hanging his full weight from a branch. It held. "I'm going down," he announced. "Prilla, anchor the rope around that tree. Civi, keep listening. If anything approaches, warn us immediately." Danny lowered himself into the ravine. The darkness swallowed him completely as he descended below the reach of Prilla's light. He navigated by touch, feeling the vines, the rocks, the rough bark of roots poking through the soil that he found gored at the bottom, sitting in shallow water. The big alien looked smaller somehow, hunched over in pain. "My arm is broken," Gort said quietly. "I can feel the bones moving." "I am sorry, Danny. I have failed the squad." "You haven't failed anything." Danny knelt beside him and examined the arm by touch. The break was clean, above the elbow. It would heal, but not without proper setting. "This is going to hurt," Danny warned. "I need to splint it so you can climb. Do what you must." Danny found 2 straight branches and tore strips from his shirt for bandages. His grandmother had taught him field medicine during their camping trips, always saying that knowledge of healing was just as important as knowledge of hunting. "Gort," Danny said as he worked, "can I ask you something?" "Yes." "How did your species survive on a world with 2 suns? There must have been challenges we never faced on Earth." Gort considered the question through his pain. "The heat. Our world is brutally hot. My ancestors learned to survive temperatures that would kill most species in minutes. We developed thick skin, efficient cooling systems, the ability to go days without water." "See," Danny finished securing the splint. "Your people conquered the fire. Mine conquered the dark. We're not so different. We both learned to survive in conditions that should have killed us. But the darkness paralyzes me, and heat would kill me. Every species has its limits." Danny helped Gort to his feet. "But we also have each other. That's the whole point of the coalition, isn't it? Together we can go places none of us could go alone." The climb out was slow and painful. Danny went first, showing Gort where to place his remaining hands. Prilla and Civi pulled from above. Gort used muscles he did not know he had, dragging himself upward 1 agonizing meter at a time. When he finally crawled over the edge, all 4 of them collapsed in exhaustion. "We should rest," Civi suggested. "Gort needs time to recover." "No." Gort pulled himself upright, his 3 working arms supporting his weight. "We have come too far to stop now. How much further to the extraction point?" Danny checked their position. 15 kilometers. Maybe 18 hours if we're slow. Then we walked slowly. Gort reached out with his lower left arm and took Danny's hand. "Thank you for coming down for me. You could have left me there." Danny shook his head. "My grandmother would have had strong words for me if I had." He smiled. "Besides, we're a squad. We finish together or not all." They resumed walking, slower now, but still moving forward. Gort leaned on Danny for support, and nobody complained about the reduced pace. 25 kilometers covered. 15 to go. 65 hours into the long night, with dawn only 7 hours away, they found the matriarch. She was enormous. Danny's torch revealed only pieces of her at a time. A leg thick as a tree trunk, scales that gleamed like wet stone, a body that filled the entire forest path, blocking their route to the extraction point just 3 kilometers ahead. Danny extinguished his torch immediately. "What is it?" Prilla whispered. Her light had dimmed to almost nothing over the past day, her control now nearly perfect. "Shadow Mom Matriarch," Danny breathed. "The biggest I've heard of. She's blocking the path. Can we go around?" Civi asked. "Not without adding hours we don't have. The terrain on both sides is impassable." Danny studied the darkness, thinking, and there's something else. She's not hunting. She's just lying there. Gort's remaining working hands pressed against the ground. "I feel other vibrations. Smaller. Beneath her." Adine, Danny realized. "She's protecting her young." They huddled together in the darkness, speaking in whispers. The extraction point was so close. They had come so far, survived so much, and now this final obstacle stood between them and success. "We could use the emergency beacon," Prilla suggested reluctantly. "Accept the failure." "No," Gort said firmly. "We have not come this far to give up. There must be another way." Everyone looked at Danny. He felt the weight of their expectations, their trust. His grandmother's voice echoed in his memory. But this time he could not remember her saying anything about confronting a protective mother predator. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. "This is beyond anything I've trained for." The words hung in the air. For the first time in 65 hours, Danny Reyes did not have an answer. Civi spoke into the silence. "You have taught us that fear can be managed. That darkness is not an enemy. That we have abilities we never knew existed." Her translucent form moved closer to Danny. "Perhaps this is the same. Perhaps you know the answer, but have not realized it yet." Danny closed his eyes. He thought about his grandmother, about all the lessons she had given him over the years. Firemaking, navigation, tracking, healing, and something else, something she had told him near the end, when he was preparing to leave Earth for the Academy. "When you cannot go around the dark," she had said, "go through it. But remember, Danny, even the darkest creatures are still creatures. They have fears. They have loves. They protect their families just like we do." Danny opened his eyes. "She's protecting her young," he said slowly. "She's not hunting. She's being a mother. And mothers respond to certain things, regardless of species." "What are you going to do?" Prilla asked nervously. "Something my grandmother taught me. Stay here." Danny walked forward alone, into the absolute darkness where the matriarch waited. He moved slowly, making no attempt to hide. His footsteps were soft but audible, announcing his presence without threat. The matriarch stirred. He could hear her massive body shifting, feel the ground tremble beneath her weight. A low sound rumbled from her chest, a warning. Danny stopped walking. He was maybe 10 meters from her now, close enough that she could kill him in an instant if she chose. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly. His voice was calm, steady, the same tone his grandmother used when approaching injured animals on their ranch. "I'm not here for your children. I just need to pass through." The matriarch made another sound, higher this time, almost questioning. Danny crouched down, making himself smaller, less threatening. He kept his hands visible, palms open and empty. In the darkness, she could not see these gestures, but she could sense something else. His heartbeat, slow and controlled. His breathing, deep and peaceful. His complete lack of aggression. "We're all just trying to survive the night," Danny continued. "My friends and I want to reach the place past your den. Then we'll be gone. We won't disturb you again." Silence. The forest held its breath. Then the matriarch moved. Not toward Danny, but to the side. She shifted her massive body, creating a narrow gap along the edge of the path. An opening. Danny released a breath he did not know he was holding. "Thank you," he whispered. He returned to his squad and led them forward, single file, through the gap the matriarch had created. They passed within arm's reach of her, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her scales. The baby shadow maws squeaked softly somewhere in the darkness, and the mother made a gentle sound in response. Then they were through. 3 kilometers later, they emerged from the forest into a clearing where the extraction ships waited. The horizon was already brightening, the first hint of dawn after 72 hours of darkness. Prilla's light went out completely, no longer needed. "We made it," Civi breathed. She was crying, though her species had no tears. "We actually made it." Commander Reth met them at the ship. His expression showed surprise as he noted Gort's splinted arm, their exhausted faces, and the fact that all 4 of them were alive and standing. "Squad 7, reporting for extraction," Danny said. "We encountered some difficulties, but completed the course without emergency beacon activation." The commander nodded slowly. "Of 12 squads, only 2 finished. You are one of them." He studied Danny with new respect. "Your squad mates told me via monitoring that you led them through the darkness using primitive Earth techniques. Care to explain?" Danny looked at his friends. Gort stood tall despite his injury. Civi had not frozen once in the last 20 hours. Prilla's bioluminescence was completely under her control. "I didn't lead them through anything, sir. I just reminded them of skills they already had. They did the rest themselves." The commander almost smiled. "Nevertheless, well done, Cadet Reyes. Your grandmother would be proud." Danny watched the sun rise over the forest, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The long night was finally over. "Danny," Prilla said softly, "what would your grandmother say if she could see us now?" Danny laughed. "She'd probably say we took too long." His squad mates laughed with him, and for the first time in 3 days, the darkness behind them felt smaller than it ever had before. They had walked into the night as strangers who feared the dark. They walked out as friends who had learned to see within it.